My husband has a special friend. She hasn't smiled in a long time due to depression. To make her happy, on our 8th wedding anniversary, he made me go on the drop tower ride. Even though he knew I was afraid of heights, I screamed as I was thrown to the highest point. I was so scared that I lost control. My pants were all wet, only to see them kissing. My heart ached terribly. My tears blurred my vision. It seemed like fear vanished at that moment. I lifted my head and looked straight into the distance. Standing at a high place, I admired this unique scenery. I decided to completely separate from Ethan, my husband of 8 years, as the drop tower slowly descended. Besides the sound of the wind in my ears, there was also Ethan's gentle comfort. "Sophia, don't be afraid. Everything is over." This was not said to me, the wife, but to Ethan's beloved, Isabella. He carefully shielded Isabella's ears, afraid that my scream would disturb her. Isabella's eyes suddenly lit up. She pointed at me and laughed happily. "Ethan, brother, look at Emily's sister," actually scared to the point of wetting his pants. Upon hearing this, Ethan gently patted Isabella's head. His eyes squinted slightly. He glanced over at me. He said with a disdainful tone, "Tusk, that's really embarrassing." I maintained a stern face, with my hands hanging at my sides, clenched tightly into fists. He waved his hand, covering his nose. He said to the butler with a face full of impatience, "Take the lady to change her clothes." That unpleasant smell on her ruined my good mood all at once. The butler agreed, feeling a bit uneasy inside. He lowered his head, not daring to look at me, ready to take me away, just took a couple of steps. "Isabella is blocking my way," she said softly. "Sister Emily, don't be angry. Okay, you know, I have depression. I just managed to feel a little happy. I didn't mean to make fun of you." As Isabella spoke, her tears kept streaming down. She was crying so hard she could hardly breathe. It seemed like she was about to faint at any moment. Ethan quickly walked over. He hugged her tightly. He comforted her softly. "Sophia, don't cry. This is not your fault. You don't need to apologize." After he finished speaking, he turned and glared at me. He said angrily, "Can't you be a little more considerate of others? Sophia already feels guilty enough. Can you still bear to blame her? Is your heart made of iron? Why is it so hard?" Upon hearing this, I smiled helplessly. I pointed at myself. I retorted, "You said I lack compassion. Do you mean that I should willingly give my husband to you, to fulfill your wishes? He is clearly afraid of heights, yet he rode the drop tower to make Isabella happy. He forced himself to get on the ride. As a result, he was terrified. He couldn't even take care of himself, all just to make her smile." Ethan was exposed by me. He was so angry that his chest heaved. He shouted loudly, "Emily, you think I'm easy to bully? How dare you talk to me like that? It's just that you rode the drop tower once. Why do you have to make up stories about me and Sophia? And you embarrassed yourself out of fear. Is it wrong for others to laugh a little?" As soon as I finished speaking, I felt my arm being gripped tightly. It hurt as if a chunk of flesh was about to be pinched off. I looked up at Isabella. I found her looking at me with tear-filled eyes. "Emily, sister, don't be angry." "Okay." After saying that, she bit her lip. Her gaze turned to Ethan. Her lips trembled slightly. "Ethan, brother, I'm sorry. It's all Sophia's fault. It's all because of depression. It caused Ethan and Emily to argue. Sophia really shouldn't have." After she finished speaking, she raised her hand and slapped herself. Just as she was about to hit herself again, Ethan quickly grabbed her hand. Ethan's eyes were red. He shouted at me as if he had gone mad. "Emily, how long are you going to keep making a scene? Do you have to drive Sophia to a dead end to be satisfied?" I stood there. My heart ached as if it were being cut by a knife. Tears fell from the corners of my eyes, but they were soon dried by the wind. I always knew. My husband of 8 years. In his heart, there has always been someone he loves but cannot have. I didn't expect that. He could actually go this far for her. An hour ago, he brought me to this amusement park. He rented out the whole place extravagantly. I thought he was celebrating our 8th wedding anniversary. He wanted to give me a surprise, so I agreed to ride the drop tower with him, even though I am naturally afraid of heights. But when he made an excuse to go to the bathroom, I still sat on the drop tower without moving. I was actually quite curious, thinking about what surprise he was preparing for me. Suddenly, the drop tower started up without warning. I screamed in terror, calling Ethan's name repeatedly. However, even though I was scared and at a loss, Ethan didn't come to rescue me like a hero. When I was raised to the highest point of the drop tower, the machine suddenly stopped. I nervously looked around, but I saw a heartbreaking scene. In the operation room not far away, Ethan gently hugged Isabella from behind. He whispered comforting words to her. Sophia, look at Emily. She's now at the highest point. Doesn't she look like a potato stuck on a bamboo pole? Isabella couldn't help but laugh out loud. Feeling a bit shy, she hid in Ethan's embrace. She softly said, Ethan, brother, you tricked Emily into going up there just to make me happy. When she comes down, how are you going to explain it to her? Ethan raised his eyebrows dismissively. He said, Isn't it just a ride at the amusement park? It's not a big deal. At worst, I'll just buy her a couple of bags. Suddenly, they gazed deeply into each other's eyes. Holding each other tightly, they began to kiss passionately. At that moment, this moment, I really wish I couldn't read lips. That would be nice. My heart aches to the extreme. Teardrops slowly blurred my vision. Everything before me seemed shrouded in a thin veil. The feeling of fear vanished in an instant. The little moments of our love flashed through my mind like a revolving lantern. Back when we had just gotten married, he was still just a poor boy. Isabella left him completely for this reason. I accompanied him in his struggle all the way. I used all my savings to support his startup. At home, I managed the household like a nanny at the company. I cleaned like a janitor, served tea and water, and cooked for the employees. After 5 hard years, the company finally grew and prospered. Ethan became a respected tycoon, and I, the tycoon's wife. Yet no one knew of me. I thought we had endured the tough times, and that life would become happier. But unexpectedly, Isabella appeared. She was wearing a white long dress. Her long hair was black and straight. She looked at Ethan with tears in her eyes. She choked up and said a few words. Ethan completely forgave her. From that moment on, they became inseparable. She accompanied Ethan to dinner and press conferences. They appeared hand in hand at various public events. She looked more like a wealthy tycoon's wife than I did, Ethan's wife. If I asked one more question, he would angrily say, Sophia has depression. What are you arguing with her about? You have already become the wife of a tycoon. What more could you possibly want? The memory was suddenly interrupted. My heart ached suddenly. I looked up towards the distance, feeling the unique beauty from up high. I silently decided to say goodbye to Ethan, whom I had been married to for 8 years. I'm sorry. Ethan spoke excitedly once again. Saliva accidentally splashed on my face. I apologized to him. He obviously didn't expect me to concede so easily this time. You should know, in the past, when faced with such situations, I would definitely cry and complain to him, talking about the hardships of starting a business together. I hoped he could understand me just this once. This time I really figured it out, using past experiences to expect his sympathy. It's just like flirting with a blind person. Completely meaningless. After leaving the amusement park, I drove straight home. The butler stopped me. With a serious expression, he reminded me, Madam, Mr. Ethan instructed you to change your clothes before meeting him. I chuckled coldly to myself. I quickly turned the steering wheel, skillfully backing the car out. Please tell him, I won't disturb them here. After saying that, I drove that Rolls-Royce with the starry sky roof, winding through the bustling city streets. The car behind me kept flashing its high beams at me. It seems I want to see who is sitting in the car. The car next to me also rolled down its window. While waiting for the red light, someone even whistled at me at that moment. I finally figured it out. Even without Ethan, I am still a beautiful 28-year-old woman. Why should I be fixated on just him? After returning home, I immediately contacted a lawyer to help me draft a divorce agreement. We will split all the assets. But I don't want this house, because it holds too many memories of the past. I don't want it. The day after the divorce agreement was delivered to him, I packed my bags and moved out. Ethan neither responded to my divorce agreement, nor called me. He probably thinks I'm just joking again, because he believes I can't live without him, that I can't survive without him, that I would never really divorce him. Not long after, my phone popped up with a trending news alert. Ethan, the lifelong single billionaire, publicly confesses his love. Everyone finally sees the true face of the billionaire's wife. Clicking in to take a look, everyone is praising Isabella. Everyone says she truly deserves to be the billionaire's wife. She must be someone who is cherished by the billionaire. Indeed, she is a great beauty. Over the years, I have remained inconspicuous. No one knows my identity, but Isabella has always been by Ethan's side. She has attracted everyone's attention. This morning, Ethan rented the largest mall in New York. He carefully arranged a romantic setting to confess to Isabella. When Isabella gasped and covered her mouth, Ethan knelt down on one knee. He took out an exquisite little box when the box opened. Inside was a diamond ring worth 1 billion. "Sophia, will you marry me?" Ethan gently asked. Isabella was so excited she couldn't speak. She nodded repeatedly. "I do." This post below, some people are envious, and some are jealous. The comment section is bustling. "Oh my, this girl is really lucky. She actually got proposed to by the richest man. Just that ring alone. Even if I don't eat or drink, I would need to earn several lifetimes to afford it. Isn't she just looking a bit pure? I think she's not even as pretty as me. I don't care whether she loves me or not, but I really like the ring she wears. Can you give it to me?" I glanced at it a few times, and then quietly left. I put down my phone, unconsciously touched my left ring finger. It's empty. There's nothing there, just like our marriage. We've been together for 8 years. I haven't gained anything. At first, I thought he had no money. We didn't even have a decent wedding. We didn't hold a banquet. I only spent 9 yuan 90 to get the marriage certificate at the Civil Affairs Bureau. My parents passed away in a car accident when I was young. His parents treat Sophia like their own daughter. True hearts exchange true hearts. I am also wholeheartedly invested in this little family. I accompany him in starting his business. Hard work and dedication. I just hope he can treat me well, but the reality proves otherwise. You can get anything from a man, money or body, but don't expect him to treat you well. Such insubstantial things. The initiative is entirely in a man's hands. It's more reliable than money and power. The phone suddenly rang. As soon as I answered the call, Ethan started shouting loudly, "Emily, do you think you're so impressive now? Hurry up and get home. Who did you go out with last night? I demand that you come back within 10 minutes. Otherwise, I will never forgive you." I lay on the big bed in the hotel, listening to this series of accusations. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Ethan, you just proposed. How can you still have time to worry about me? If you keep talking to me, your fiancé, who you just proposed to, might get upset." Mentioning Isabella, Ethan was like a powder keg ready to explode. He gritted his teeth and shouted my name, angrily said, "Emily, I'll give you one last chance. As long as you come back to apologize to me, I can pretend I never saw the divorce agreement. The proposal can also be wiped clean." After hearing this, I immediately understood. He suddenly proposed to Isabella. Turns out it was to make me jealous. Unfortunately, this trick no longer works. It doesn't affect me anymore. I might have been sad before, crying with red and swollen eyes. In the end, he would only say one thing: "It's so ugly." At this moment, I felt unusually calm inside, like a stagnant pool of water. There wasn't a ripple, since this is the last chance. "Then you should hurry up and sign the divorce agreement." My tone was very calm. No emotions could be detected. Ethan was silent for quite a while. Finally, he managed to squeeze out a few words. "Don't regret it." I replied without hesitation. "No regrets. Please sign as soon as possible. I won't disturb you and Isabella anymore." I breathed a sigh of relief. I didn't expect the divorce to go so smoothly. After a while, an angry shout came from the other end of the phone. It made me feel very uncomfortable. "Emily, can you be a little more understanding? Sophia has depression. She's just a patient." I cheer her up. "I just want to help her recover quickly. Can you stop causing trouble? I'm really annoyed right now." I frowned as I listened. I don't want to continue this meaningless conversation. He hung up the phone directly. He is just using treating her depression as an excuse. He wants to be with her openly and honestly. I have now fulfilled his wish. I took the initiative to withdraw and divorce him. Why is he still so persistent? It's noon. I'm so hungry my stomach is growling. I quickly opened the food delivery app. I ordered my favorite grilled fish. I had just placed the order. My phone suddenly received several messages. I opened it to take a look. "It's a message from Isabella," she said. "Emily, you saw it, right? Brother Ethan has already proposed to me. If you understand reason, you should take the initiative to divorce Brother Ethan." Ethan quickly sent a message as well. This time he actually showed weakness. "Emily, be obedient. Come home. The position of the rich man's wife is still yours." I let out a cold laugh, deleted the notifications from the notification bar, continued scrolling through videos, waiting for the takeout to arrive. Since Ethan got money, he hasn't eaten grilled fish with me again. He clearly said before that he would accompany me for a lifetime to eat my favorite grilled fish, but now that he has money, he thinks these grilled fish are unclean instead. He doesn't eat them himself, and he won't let me eat them. Today, I plan to have a big meal. After eating and drinking to my heart's content, I took a shower and went to bed to rest. to ensure I wouldn't be woken up at midnight. I deliberately set my phone to do not disturb mode. The next day, the sunlight came through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Woke me up. I picked up my phone to take a look. Sure enough, there were all missed calls and unread message notifications. Almost all of them were from Ethan. He wrote, "Emily, there should always be a limit to what you do. If you keep going like this, don't think about coming back. Can you be a little more sensible? Stop causing trouble. I'm very busy every day. I don't have time to deal with you. This time I did go a bit too far. I'll take you out for grilled fish to apologize." Is that all right, Emily? You're really getting better and better. I've already given you an out. What more do you want? Do you really want a divorce? Fine. If you want a divorce, then let's get a divorce. He sent the page of the divorce agreement that needs to be signed first. Half an hour later, he sent a complete electronic version. He said, "As you wish. I've already signed the divorce agreement. You are no longer my wife, Ethan. Tomorrow I'll have Isabella move in. Don't regret it." After reading this message, I am completely at a loss. Is he still a child? Why is he so immature? I downloaded the electronic version of the divorce agreement, saved it to my phone. Then I deleted all contact information for him and Isabella. After completing these tasks, I lay back down on the bed and continued to rest. 1 whole week later, I finally regained my spirits and prepared to start my entrepreneurial journey. I have no interest in being the wife of the richest man, but the position of the richest man does make me a bit excited. With the experience accumulated from starting a business with him, plus half of the richest man's assets, my entrepreneurial path is going quite smoothly. But after all, it's just the beginning. Being able to break even is already quite good to become the richest man. There's still a long way to go. That day, I was doing market research at the mall. Suddenly, I received a call from Ethan's mom. She cried and asked me to come home. She said she missed me. Although Ethan isn't great, Ethan's mom has treated me really well. But Ethan's mom is really good to me. Even if I cut ties with Ethan, I still can't bear to part with this friendship between us. I thought about how Ethan's mom and Ethan do not live together. Instead, she lives with Ethan's dad in a community downtown. I agreed to Ethan's mom. I said I would come home for dinner. After finishing the market research, I looked at my watch. It was already 5 o'clock. I figured it was about time, so I drove to the market to buy some groceries. Then I headed to Ethan's mom's house. At 5:30, I arrived right at her doorstep. I knocked on the door. "Auntie, it's Emily." As soon as I finished speaking, the door slowly opened from the inside. Ethan stood at the door with a sullen expression. He raised his hand and slapped me. I was a bit dazed from the hit. Furrowing my brows, I said loudly, "Ethan, are you okay? Why did you suddenly hit me?" Ethan's eyes widened. He stared at me angrily. He let out a cold snort from his throat. "HMPH, why did you hit her? You know very well what you did. During the divorce. Weren't you acting very decisively? You're scheming behind my back again. You caused me to have Sophia's company shut down. Now you're happy about it." Hearing him say that, I'm even more confused. What do you mean I'm scheming behind your back? And about what he mentioned regarding Isabella's company. I had no idea what was going on. Ethan's mom heard the noise. She immediately ran out from the living room. She hugged me to protect me. She said a few reproachful words to Ethan. "Why did you hit Emily? Even if you are divorced, you shouldn't have hit her." Ethan's mom pushed Ethan hard, with her hands on her hips. She said angrily, "I thought you wanted me to call Emily back. You figured it out. You planned to win her back. I didn't expect you to actually hit her. You can go now. You are not welcome here. After all, Ethan is her son. She can't resist his mother, so I had no choice but to leave helplessly." However, the way he looked at me when he went downstairs, it was as if he wanted to devour me. Ethan's mother pulled me into the house. She patiently comforted me for a long time. Only then did my mood slowly calm down. "Emily, that kid of mine is sorry for you. If you two have broken up, then so be it. But our mother-daughter bond won't change at all. From now on, you'll still treat me as your mom. Is that okay when you call me auntie? It makes me feel especially upset. I haven't really felt a mother's love since I was little." Coincidentally, Ethan's mother has a special warmth. She cares about me a lot. I just nodded. I agreed to her suggestion after we happily finished our meal. Ethan's mother continued to see me off downstairs. I just walked out of the community. Ethan was waiting right at the door. He pulled me into the car in one swift motion. He quickly locked the car doors. He pinned me down in my seat. The space in the car is too small. I felt a little short of breath, so I struggled hard. "Let me out. Ethan, this is illegal detention. I can report you. It seemed that my words provoked Ethan. He impatiently tugged at his tie. He pressed my hands down under the seat, forcing me to look into his eyes. After a long while, he finally spoke slowly. Emily, stop playing this push-and-pull game with me, okay? I frowned in confusion. I had no idea what he was talking about. Ethan smiled slightly. He confidently raised an eyebrow and said softly, "You keep causing trouble for Sophia. Isn't it just out of jealousy? I've told you this several times already. She has depression. If she gets too upset, she might commit suicide, so I can only go along with her. I try to make her happy." He reached out and lifted my hair, gently stroking it in his palm. "Don't worry. The position of the richest man's wife will always be yours." I couldn't help but shiver. I bumped my forehead against him hard. "Are you okay? We've been divorced for a long time. You don't need to explain the matter between you and Isabella to me. There's no need to clarify." Ethan immediately let go of me in pain. He frowned. His face turned red with anger. "Emily, don't be ungrateful. I've already given you face. If you don't want the position of the richest man's wife, I can give it to someone else." Seeing him get anxious and flustered, I felt particularly calm inside. I shrugged indifferently. I said calmly, "Do as you please. Anyway, my identity has never been recognized. He said it was for the company's development. I should maintain a single image. I accepted it. But then he met Isabella and completely broke these rules, unless I'm foolish. How could I not see their relationship? But I always comfort myself. I tell myself Ethan is just playing around. He won't take it seriously. When a man has money, who wouldn't change even if there are? They are just a minority. Until he tricked me, someone with a fear of heights, into riding the drop tower. That's when I suddenly realized, in their eyes, I'm just someone they can joke around with. There's no dignity at all. I stood up, adjusted my messy hair, stared straight at him, and poked his chest with my hand. She poked his chest with her hand. She said seriously, "In the past, I dream of becoming the wife of the richest man, but right now, I just want to become the richest person myself." That said, I got out of the car. Ethan mentioned that the company Isabella just took over went bankrupt. I had my assistant look into it. It turned out things were not that simple. Unfortunately, Ethan seems unaware of the truth. He is willing to be deceived, and I can't be bothered to care. On the way home, I happened to run into Isabella. I originally planned to pretend not to see her and just walk away, but she suddenly opened her arms, blocking my car. I irritably rolled down the window. I glared at her coldly. Isabella looked furious. Her eyes were full of dissatisfaction towards me. She placed her hands on the window and said through gritted teeth, "Tell me the truth. Did you do something? Why is it that even though you and Ethan have been divorced for 3 months, he still refuses to marry me? I find it quite interesting. Speak softly. This is quite simple. Whether he is willing to marry you, just ask him directly. Why are you asking me this? Do you really think I would marry you?" Isabella got anxious. She shouted loudly. She reached her hand into the car window, grabbed my clothes, and pulled me out. "Come out quickly. You rule-breaking person. Even after the divorce, you still can't behave. Let me make it clear to you. Ethan can only belong to me. If you dare to compete with me again, I will make you pay the price." As soon as she finished speaking, her expression suddenly changed dramatically. Her body fell straight back. She shouted loudly, "Emily, don't be mad at Sophia, okay? During the time you were away, Ethan thought about you every day. He couldn't sleep well at night. Sophia felt particularly upset watching this. If Emily doesn't come home because she dislikes Sophia, then Sophia will leave now. Is that okay? As long as you're willing to go home and are willing to live well with brother Ethan, I'm willing to do whatever you ask." I was wondering why she suddenly changed so much. I glanced at the rearview mirror of the car. Ethan was walking briskly towards us. I immediately understood what was going on. Ethan shot me a fierce glare and said angrily, "How can you be so heartless? Although Sophia is in a difficult situation, she is still very understanding. Many people want to be good to her. They simply can't bear to let her suffer. Why are you always at odds with her? Why do you always pick on her?" He turned around and hugged Isabella and softly comforted her. "Don't worry, Sophia. With me around, no one dares to bully you. My divorce from her was entirely her own reason. It has nothing to do with you. You don't need to feel guilty. That's it." He even specifically reminded me a few times. I leaned back in the chair. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Ethan, you're still so naive. No wonder Isabella can fool you time and again." I ignored Ethan's puzzled expression. I took out my phone directly to show him the video I just recorded. Isabella is meticulous. She is always good at scheming, yet Ethan cherishes her especially. He accommodates her in every way. In the video, Isabella's expression looked mean and vicious. She screamed, trying to grab the phone. She wanted to delete the video, but Ethan was faster. He got the phone first. Ethan held the phone tightly. He frowned as he watched the entire video. I sat in the car, watching all of this with great interest. The pure and flawless ideal image he had in his heart had actually long since deteriorated. He smiled bitterly. The sparkle in his eyes dimmed a bit. Isabella, so you have been pretending all along. Isabella noticed Ethan's unusual expression. She quickly grabbed his arm. She explained softly, Ethan, brother, don't rush. Listen to me. This video must have been synthesized using AI technology. Ethan angrily shook off her arm. He shouted loudly, you're still lying to me. Do I look like a fool? That was synthesized by AI. Do you think I can't tell? He was trembling with anger. His voice was somewhat shaky. Isabella, I, Ethan, have been sincere with you, right? The things you wanted, what have I not given you? And you, besides lying to me, what else can you do? Even your so-called depression. Is that also fake? Isabella seemed to be hit with a truth. Her gaze was wandering. She couldn't bear to look Ethan in the eye at all. She stammered, you calm down. Ethan impatiently tugged at his tie. He pushed Isabella to the car door. He asked her seriously, I just gave it to your company. Did you hire someone to short it? Just tell me directly. Where did the money go? Hearing him say that, I silently gave him a thumbs up in my heart. It seems he isn't hopelessly foolish yet. Isabella was already too scared to move. She stared blankly at him. She was just crying. She couldn't say a word. I wanted to drive away. After all, this is their matter. It has nothing to do with me. Ethan reached out and grabbed my arm. He said nervously, Emily, what happened just now was my misunderstanding. I misunderstood you. I'm really sorry. Does your face still hurt? In his gaze towards me, it unexpectedly revealed a bit of heartache. That moment, I felt a bit dazed. The last time he looked at me like this was already 5 years ago. At that time, I had just started my business. I rode a tricycle in the pouring rain to deliver lunch boxes to them. My clothes under the raincoat were completely soaked. My hair was also wet, sticking in strands. Sticking to my forehead, water kept dripping down. It plopped onto the tiles. Ethan hugged me with concern. He used his broad, warm chest to warm me up. He swore. He said he would treat me well for the rest of his life. Once he has money in the future, I would be the most precious treasure in his palm. In the end, only I took this statement seriously. I'm sorry, this gentleman, please let me through. I have to go. I coldly glanced at him, as if looking at a stranger. Ethan stood beside me, somewhat dejected. There was a hint of sadness about him. He quietly looked at me, like a child who has made a mistake. He gathered the courage to speak to me. Emily, let's talk. We haven't sat down to have a good conversation in a long time. I glanced at him. I shook my head gently. I don't have the time. I'm going to make money. Don't block my way. After saying that, I pressed the gas pedal. The engine roared. Quickly, I left them far behind. 3 days later, Ethan and Isabella trended again. This time it wasn't because of a romance, but because Isabella's past was exposed. An anonymous post from a classmate surfaced. It claimed she smoked, drank, and fought in high school, and bullied classmates. After entering college to buy luxury goods, she dated a few wealthy people. The post included pictures. The facts are laid out before us. Isabella suddenly became the focus of criticism online, the engagement scene that was once envied by many. Now it has also become a topic of discussion among netizens. Some people commented, Tusk. It seems Mr. Ethan, the billionaire, doesn't have such great taste after all. Who would have thought? Isabella appears quite innocent on the surface, but privately, she's quite the player. Being rich is really great. Otherwise, I would want to try dating this girl too. Due to online bullying, Ethan's company's stock continues to decline, on average, losing 10 million every hour. Upon hearing this news, Ethan was very angry in the office in front of all the employees. He slapped Isabella 3 times. This first slap was for myself. I treated you so well, and yet you deceived me. You transferred all the money from my branch, and it was exposed that you were being kept. Now, seeing you makes me feel sick. Isabella is sitting on the ground. She cried until she couldn't catch her breath. The second slap. I did it for Emily. She has suffered so much alongside me. Yet in the end, you pushed her away. The third slap. I'm still doing this for Emily. She is so virtuous and understanding, but you use your depression to gain my sympathy and make me hurt Emily time and again. Ethan's face turned red with anger. Isabella covered her painful face. She slowly stood up. Suddenly, she laughed madly. Ha ha ha, Ethan, what are you pretending to be so affectionate for? You claim to sympathize with my depression, but it's all just an excuse, right? You just want to have a relationship with me. But afterward, you don't want to take responsibility. You want me for my looks. I want you for your wealth. That's quite fair. Now you're speaking up for Emily. When you kiss me, hold me, and get close to me, why don't you think about Emily's goodness? Slap. A loud slap echoed in the hall. Ethan charged forward angrily. He grabbed her by the neck. His expression twisted on his face. I happened to arrive just then. I witnessed this scene. Cough, cough. I cleared my throat twice. I said to them, if you want to fight, can you go outside to do it? Don't disturb everyone else's work here. Is that okay, seeing me? Ethan's eyes instantly lit up. He immediately let go of Isabella. He slowly walked up to me. He asked softly, Emily, what brings you here? I looked around. I waved my hand, seeing that the onlookers had all dispersed. Only then did I speak up. Ethan's mom sent me here. She asked me to acquire you all. I walked to the desk. I sat in the swivel chair, speak in a formal tone. Because of the matter between the two of you, the company is losing money every minute now. Acquired by me. It's the best choice for you right now. I thought he would argue back. He would argue with reason. He might even resort to violence against me. But he didn't. His eyes were red. His voice trembled a bit. Emily, this company is something we built together. If you want it, I will hand it all over to you right now. It's just that. You can promise me. Can we start over? I understand I made a mistake. I swear I won't do this again in the future. Can you forgive me? He's a grown man, but now he's crying like a wronged child. I felt no disturbance in my heart. I just calmly shook my head. You clearly knew I was afraid of heights back then. Yet you still dragged me to ride the drop tower, just to make Isabella happy. You and Isabella laughed at me standing there like a potato. Then when you two were cuddling together, you should have anticipated it. We would end up like this today. Upon hearing this, he seemed to have lost all his strength, weakly leaning against the wall, slowly sliding down to the ground. So it turns out, you knew all along. I ignored him, directly took out the acquisition agreement, placed it on the table. Take a look at the contract. If there are no issues, just sign it. After saying that, I left wearing high heels. Ethan's voice came from behind. Emily, I'm sorry. It was me who delayed you. You really are more suited to being the richest. After the company acquisition was completed, Ethan and Isabella disappeared. Days later, I received a call from Ethan's mother on the phone. Her voice is warm and gentle. She invited me over for dinner, thinking about how she used to take care of me. I agreed. As soon as I walked through that familiar door, I saw him sitting in the living room. He stood up. His eyes were filled with anticipation. The atmosphere at the dinner table was a bit tense. Ethan's mom kept serving me food. She encouraged us to reconcile. He also seized the opportunity. He expressed his desire to get back together. I felt a chill in my heart. I put down my chopsticks and firmly rejected him again. We will never get back together in this lifetime. Ethan's mom, I came for dinner this time for your sake, but now it seems, between him and me, you still lean more towards your son. Since that's the case, there's no need for us to stay in touch anymore. After saying that, I stood up and left. I heard Ethan's mother scolding him from behind, but that was no longer my concern. From that day on, I dedicated all my thoughts to work. I traveled day and night between various cities, continuously discussing plans with the team, seizing every fleeting business opportunity. We endured one difficult phase after another. Finally, we saw hope. A year later, at the awards ceremony, when the host announced my name, announcing that I had become the richest person, there was warm applause from the audience. I stood on the stage, reflecting on the journey I had taken. My heart was filled with emotion, the tears and sweat of the past, the sadness and sorrow, now all transformed into the brightest light. I stepped out of my small world and stood at the highest point, seeing a more beautiful landscape.